I think, now that we kind of got into it a little bit, we'll dive back into the Goff stuff because you look at just how he's played the last 2 years, and I know at a Pro Bowl level, he's played at a high level. And to kind of, people are like, Jeff, well, what about Hendon Hooker, right? And I said this in my video today. I gave the worst case and the best case scenario. The best case for the Detroit Lions, if I'm taking my opinion completely out of it, I think all Lions fans would agree with this sentiment. Best case scenario, Hendon doesn't see the field. Okay, Jared Goff plays at such a high level, Hendon can't beat him out, and you have a guy who is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and quite frankly, it's just hard to come by at the end of the day. Like Corey kind of alluded to earlier, people are so obsessed with different players, and I like Hendon Hooker. I think a lot of Lions fans, some Lions fans would agree, maybe don't, maybe others don't. But at the end of the day, if he plays at a high level and Hendon doesn't see the field, that's a great thing. It means he's continuing to play at a high level. He's leading this franchise. They're competing for a Super Bowl. It's awesome. Then there's the other side, and we'll just look at the worst case scenario, just to do an exercise here. The worst case scenario is, let's say Goff, he regresses and he doesn't play well. To Lucas's point earlier, there isn't out in year 3, but I do think Jared Goff, him as a quarterback holds enough weight in this league that you can trade him. So I think either outcome, even if it's worst case or best case, the Lions will be all right. That's why when I saw the contract, I was like, all right, cool. A little more than I expected, more years. It's not the end of the world. I think they'll have this thing figured out. So before you guys go, I do want to acknowledge we had some super chats while we were talking to Corey here. Jam Cat, I appreciate the $10.
Shout out Jam Cat.
Ford Hamp. Absolutely. Shout out to
Happy
Sheila
Mother's Day to her yesterday as well.
No question. Rut became a Crunch member for
Rut.
1 month. We appreciate you, Rut. And we have Robin's Nest, who donated $20. Man, we appreciate you so much. He said when Jared Goff chance broke out at Yost Arena, U of M hockey, too, all doubts of Goff/Lions pairing were forevermore laid to rest. He is our quarterback. He is Detroit. Well, thank you for that.
There we go.
Burn, thank you for the $5. Did you guys hear Manu saying he wants to become a future left tackle, the big dog dreaming big if Panay is his competition?
Hey, go out there and be great. What did I say last week about that man? He
Gold jacket.
Didn't really. I backstepped on that. I'm talking about mindset wise.
He's got a gold jacket mindset, Booner.
Mindset, yes.
Perfect.
Now, can he do it? Who knows? Real quick, what Jeff said, though, because the Hendon Hooker thing, I think that's the interesting part, Jeff, what you said. And a lot of people today, you see tweets going out, oh, this is the end for Hendon Hooker. Oh, the reason they drafted Hendon Hooker is they didn't trust in Jared Goff. I didn't even see it like that. And I don't know if you guys are on the same page with me, but when you draft a quarterback in the 3rd round, and you guys, and I've spoken, Adam's in the chat, I've spoken with you guys a lot about, the percent. We've talked about the percentages when it comes to quarterbacks hitting. And Jeff, I brought to you before, the 49ers and the Patriots, teams that are constantly, even with Tom Brady, they were constantly drafting quarterbacks just in case, we might need a guy. They got a guy in the 3rd round. You don't draft a guy in the 3rd round and say, hey, I think he's going to be our future franchise quarterback in the 3rd round. You draft a guy in the 3rd round because you might need a backup in the future. He potentially could be your starter in the future. And a guy like Hendon Hooker, who was going to be a 1st-round pick, gets hurt, and you can still get him in the 3rd round, you see value in that. And then if there's the people who say, oh, well, he traded up for him, go look at this last year's draft. He traded up for Gio Manu. He traded up for Sion Vaki. He traded up for almost every pick he's had in the last 2 years. That man loves to trade up and get his guys. And when he sees a guy like Hendon Hooker, he goes and gets them. And he just added depth to that quarterback room. That's all it was. And that was what I think for the last year I've been trying to explain to people is that we need to sign this Jared Goff contract. You need to get it done, because if you wait and then you go win a Super Bowl next year, or he takes you to a back-to-back NFC championship game, then what? Then you have to pay him 65 million. And now you got him here at 53. So it was just, it's a smart move to do instead of waiting. And I do have some people, I showed you guys, people who wanted to wait and people who said, wait till the end of the year. That was just a dumb move. You got a really good contract from Jared Goff, especially when you look into the future of quarterbacks. The Hooker thing, like you said, Jeff, if it comes down to it and Hooker ends up being great, and, down the stretch, you're going to be able to move on from the Jared Goff thing. That's why there's the opt-out as well. And vice versa. So, I think the deal is perfect deal. It feels like right now the 2nd highest paid quarterback, somehow, some way, if you really break it down and no ball, Klotz, you're the ball knower. It feels essentially like a steal when you really break it down and look long term. That's where I'll stand on it.
Yeah, not only that, but to what you were saying earlier, Booner, Tua Tagovailoa is about to sign for more money. Dak Prescott's going to sign for a lot more money. So if you're sitting here with $53 million and Jared Goff, there's a smile on my face. I do not care. And especially when you talk about building for the future and making sure this team stays in that window, Jared Goff is a perfect quarterback to do it with because he's just consistent. And what do young players need in order to develop? They need consistency on the field. So when you talk about bringing in wide receivers, tight end, running back, Sam Laporte, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, they all have consistency. Linemen like Gio Manu, he's going to have consistency inside the pocket. Jared Goff, he doesn't move much. So you know what Jared Goff is doing. Every phase of this offense, I think he's going to be able to develop behind Jared Goff. And that's another thing that you're even more confident when you sign this contract, because outside of that span around Thanksgiving, you really haven't seen much inconsistency outside of Jared Goff. Even when he first got here and he was throwing to Tyrell Williams, it wasn't like Jared Goff was just coming in and taking absolute shitters. I mean, he played bad games, but it's not like it was solely his fault. I think there's been very few games while Goff has been in Detroit where it's just like Jared Goff lost us that game. There's probably been one or two, but not many since he's been here.
Yeah, to your guys' point, I mean, the worst case scenario, another one would be you continue to wait, and then Tua gets he sets the record for the highest paid quarterback, and then you have, Dak Prescott jump him, and then Goff's looking at Brad like, hey, yesterday's price isn't today's price. I've won more playoff games than both these guys. I made a Super Bowl. I just took you to an NFC Championship game, and depending on what happens this year, if they go back to another NFC Championship game, that'll be 2. Which, what?
Sorry, this just got me. It was just a complete
what is Pennywise doing over here? Oh, man.
Well, but you get the point. I mean, you can't wait around with these things. Like, regardless, both sides have to compromise. Brad isn't going to get exactly what he wants, and Jared's not going to get exactly what he wants. They have to compromise and get a deal that makes sense for both sides. And I think at first look, without knowing the details, I think they did that at this point.
What do you think Jared was asking for originally? They signed at 53.
55. I bet you 55. And I bet you, and I bet you Brad was at like 50. And they're like, all right, let's just do the middle here. That would be my guess. Yeah. I feel like as we were going through this, a lot of the fans and a lot of the people like us who cover the Lions and going through it, we were so stuck on what the current market was, seeing the guys at 45. What was Kirk Cousins, 45, I believe, or around there.
Coming off an Achilles injury.
Yeah, so I think we were just sitting there kind of seeing where the market was and not even thinking essentially, hey, where's the market going to go? And as the market goes, you're like, okay, like if we're being realistic here, they're going to be like Jared and his team's going to be looking at, hey, what is it going to be in the next 2 or 3 years? And that's what we're going to kind of push for. And that's probably why they said, hey, let's do 55. And then they landed on 53. So that's where kind of my mind goes to when we were breaking it down. We were just like, oh, 45, that's where Kirk's at. That's where the market's at. Let's do 45 and we're going to be good. No, hey, what's the market going to look like in 2 or 3 years? And that's what they did. And then I think a lot of people got a little shocked seeing 53 today. That's probably the most realistic number, if we're being honest. I love the number 2 because again, those 3 guys, these 3 quarterbacks, Tua, Dak, and Jordan Love, they're all going to sign in the next 2 or 3 months, and they're going to have massive deals. And then Jared Goff's contract in 2 months is going to look so nice. It's going to look beautiful.